and welcome back to Book Buzz with Jan and Peng, a podcast where we talk about romance books, our current reads, and we also have the pleasure of sitting down with some of our favorite authors and chatting with them about their amazing books.
Hi, everyone. Welcome back. It feels... Okay, first, I'm going to start off by saying I finished Bridgerton. I finished yesterday. And I have so much to talk about, but then I don't want to talk about it because I want you to watch it because some stuff happens that it left me speechless. I'm just kidding. But I was going to talk about a little bit of the books that I've read, but I don't think I've read a lot from when we last talked.
Yeah, because we literally just talked like 3 days ago.
Yeah, and I don't think I've read anything.
Yeah.
I think the only thing that I'm reading right now is 𝐅𝐸 by Will and Ash, which, did I tell you it's in third person?
Yeah, you did.
I was like, so took me by surprise. But so I don't really have any like book catch up to mention, but I'm super excited to like dive right into our podcast for today because we have the honor of having the amazing Kay Bromberg again with us. If you guys remember, if you guys have been listening to us from the start, she was in our podcast last year with Olivia Applegate, who plays Riley in the Driven series from Passionflix. So, but today we're going to be talking to her about her books. It's not going to be Driven focused. So it's going to be focused.
Hopefully.
I want to talk about Last Resort, which is the book she just released. Loved it. Perfection. I love it so much. I feel with like Christie's books, I've always said that I thought Driven was her most steamiest book. But I feel like this new series it's steamier than what she's been writing. And I love it. I love it. It's Callahan is goals. I love him. So today we are going to be diving more into her other books versus the Driven series because I love all of her books. Worth the Risk was always my favorite after the Driven series. And The Last Resort took that spot. I love it. It's phenomenal. It's a one-night stand, forced proximity. It has all the steam. The hero is goals. So if you haven't picked it up, pick it up. It went live today, which is March the 29th. Loved it. Plus, it's a series of standalones. 3 books, 3 brothers, triplets. I've never read a book where there's triplets. So pick it up. It's amazing. And sit back, grab some coffee, and we hope you enjoy today's podcast because we have so many questions for Christy. And I'm so excited to be talking to her again. So we hope you enjoy.
Thank you so much, Christy, for joining us today. It is definitely an honor to have you back again on our podcast. We seriously love your books, and so it's definitely an honor. So to start off, how are you doing today?
I'm doing good. It's rainy here in California, which is a rarity. So release day rain. Yay. No.
To start off the podcast, we want the readers to get to know you a bit more. So the first question, we know the Driven series was your first book. For those who don't know the story, can you tell us a little bit about how you got into writing and what made you want to write romance books?
For me, I've always liked to write, but that was out of college, and then life happened, and jobs and kids and husbands and all that stuff. Husband, not husbands. And I had 3 kids under the age of 5. I was kind of struggling with doing something besides just being a mom and working. And so I read 50 Shades of Grey and I thought I could do this. And so I challenged myself to write a book. And that book was my first book, Driven. And then everything's happened since then. It's been it's still surreal that was 8 years ago and this is still going on.
Was romance always like your main focus when writing?
Yeah, I mean, I grew up I grew up Nora Roberts, JD Robb. I did like Sidney Sheldon, so I do like suspense and that kind of thing. So I might at some point venture that way just to have a project to do something that's not romance. But yeah, I like romance. I like the feeling it gives you. And it's really funny. My youngest daughter reads books, and a couple months ago, she was reading a book and it actually had romance in it. And at the end of the book, she goes, "Mom, I get it now. I get why you do what you do. I got that feeling." And so it was like, okay, that's why.
I remember, I think my first romance book overall, but it was very toned down, was A Walk to Remember.
I saw the movie. I never read the book.
Yeah, that's the first romance book, like, because they consider it a romance, but I don't know. It's very.
I don't think it's a romance. Yeah, it's kind of young adult romance. Yeah.
Yeah. I compare it to the books I read now. I'm like, not even close.
Well, even me, like, if you look at Driven, it is tame. Like back then, it was like it's tame now. Like, I'm like, what is your guys' rating scale? What are you reading?
Yeah.
How long does it take you to write a book? Because, like, compared to when you first started writing, did it take longer to write a book then versus how long it takes you to write now?
Yeah, it used to take me a while to write a book back then, but I also back then used to outline from beginning to end. Like I had chapter by chapter outlines. I knew things that were going to be said. Now I kind of wing it more, which I think makes me struggle more because I don't know where the story's going. But like, I just finished the second book in this new series and I wrote it in like 24 days. But I preface that with saying it's not great. I have, edits have to be make it better. And then I'm one of those people that I have to take time off in between books. Like I have a couple of friends who they like finish a book and the next day they just jump into the next one. And I just can't do that. Like I need to like stop thinking about them and then like reset to do a new book. But it takes me about a month to write a book. I do better under pressure. That's why. But then it will take me about another month for edits and to make sure I actually like it.
Do you write in order or do you go?
Yes, always.
Write one scene.
No, I can't do that. The only book I've ever written out of order is I wrote in Aced, one of my books, Aced. I wrote the ending scene first. That's the only book I've ever done.
Oh, the ending. That book is so good though.
So do you read reviews? If so, does it affect the way you write your books?
So I used to have the philosophy that if someone was going to take a time to write a review, I was going to read it. And so I am one of those weird authors who goes on Goodreads. And there's been a lot of debate about that in the last couple of years. Like Goodreads isn't for authors, but I also feel like if someone's taking the time to write a review, I should, let them know I see it. I do read them. I do try and like them up to at least like the first 500, 600 reviews. Because I think it's important. But at the same time, I learned in the last couple of years, it was messing with my head more, instead of writing a book that I would write, I would be second guessing myself like, oh, this set of people isn't going to like this. And then this set of people would be unhappy if I changed it. So I just kind of have had to let it go more and not be as involved in reading them just so that I can tell my story and not be stressed about who I'm ticking off at what point.
But does it ever like reading reviews or reading comments that are left in your group or on Facebook, does it ever affect you to write a story a certain way, like saying, oh, well, people want to see this, so let me write a story about this and going forward?
Yeah, it has. In two things. Like first, when I wrote Fueled, which was the second book with Driven, it was all in Riley's point of view. And I'd finished it and I read a review for Driven that said we would really like to see Colton's point of view. And I thought about it and I'd never written in the male perspective. And so I went back through and gutted the book and put scenes in Colton's point of view. And I think the book was way better because of it. So, that was because of a review I read. And so there are, negative reviews can be positive if they're, constructive. I also, this new series I wrote, I've been watching a lot of charts and you see, the billionaire romance theme, the dark romance theme. So this series I kind of wrote to trend, which I normally don't do, but I thought, why not try it? I like reading a billionaire romance as much as the next person, so why not try and write one? So
I loved it. I love that book so much. And I will say, I feel like, well, let me ask you first, is it easier for you to write the male point of view versus the female point of view? Because like you said, for Fueled, I liked how I'm so happy you actually went in there and wrote Colton's point of view. Because I guess if you're following up with that series, you understand the story more, you understand his background more. But
correct, yeah.
Is it harder getting in that male head and writing that point of view?
I like writing male point of view because they're just straight to the point. It's much easier for me to write as a guy. With that said, Colton is such a presence that it's hard to write male perspective since then, because I feel like I don't want to sound like him. And people know that series enough that I will get, oh, that's a Colton saying. And I'm like, well, there's only so many words in the like, the dictionary. Some words are going to be repeated. But I do like writing the male point of view. I think there's something about men that is very straightforward. They're not wishy, and not that women are wishy-washy, but women doubt themselves more in a lot of cases. But in romance, men can do a lot of things and be forgiven. Women can't. So it's a little bit easier to write men in the aspect that they're going to be forgiven by the reader. Whereas women, if they're too strong, you can get criticized. If they're too weak, you can get criticized. If they doubt themselves, oh, why are they wishy-washy? So for me, writing the female is harder just because I have to make women like them. And we're not exactly nice to women. Women are not nice to women or accepting.
And that is true. That is true. And I do want to jump forward a little bit and say that when I read Last Resort, I felt like Callahan. Is that how you pronounce his name?
Callahan, yeah.
Callahan. I loved his point of view. And then some flash scenes that you did, just because you do understand him better. And I guess I don't want to compare him to Colton, but
it's the damage. There's damage there.
Yes. And it's like, you get to fall more in love with him, because as a romance reader, you tend to fall in love with the hero, like always team the hero.
Yeah.
And the heroine, like you said, you're like, why is she doing this? She's so hard-headed. And it's like, you understand him better. And then when you see that side of him, it's like, you instantly fall in love with him. And it's like,
yeah. And my problem is I always set out to write like these alpha assholes, like these total pricks. And then I just can't make them 100%. Like I have to have something that they're vulnerable about. And I know that's part of the deal, but I always go in there like, I'm going to make this guy that's such a jerk. And then halfway through, I'm like, oh wait, he's not really a jerk. I really like him. So how do I fix this? And then it's like, that's just my style, I guess. I'm trying to be something that I'm not. So I just have to let it be what it is.
It reminds me of Resist and Reveal.
Oh, I love that. I love those books.
Yes, I love that duet. And it's like, you start off with, you don't know how to feel about him. It's like, what is
You're not exactly sure about her because she has like this weird profession that most women are like, that look at and like, what?
I need to reread that duet. I love it. For you, before you sit down and write a book, what do you do first? Do you plot your books first, or what comes first, your characters or like the full story?
It depends on the book. Sometimes characters are really strong and then I build a book around the characters. Sometimes plot is more strong. Sometimes I'll write a book and I don't even know the character's name the whole book. Hard to Handle was like that. I changed his name at the end because after I wrote it, I didn't like the name. It didn't fit him. The more I do this, the less I outline, which I think is also a detriment to me just because it makes it harder to write the book because I don't know where it's going. And then I have to go back and edit things more. But it really depends on the book and the characters. I knew what I wanted out of Callahan. I wasn't really sure out of Sutton, but the backstory actually surprised me with Last Resort. Like I didn't think it was going to be as strong as it was. And so now I just finished the second book and I'm like, okay, I need more backstory there. I need more, to tie that back in. But usually the male characters are first. They're usually the ones who come to me first. And then I kind of form the story around them.
Just curious, since you said that the male comes to you first, who is your favorite hero that you've written so far?
Oh, geez. That's a hard one. Don't ask me that. Outside of Colton, because everyone expects me to say Colton, Colton taught me how to write a male point of view. So for me, he'll always be there. I really like Easton in the Player in the Catch series. And I also really like Rush Mackenzie and Hard to Hold. So yeah, I mean, everyone, I can look at all the books and be like, so I mean, I wouldn't release the books if I didn't love them. So.
So when you're writing an emotional, draining scene, whether it's sad or sexy, how do you get in the mood?
Well, sexy, my kids need to not be home. Because it's really hard when you hear mom, 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 mom.
Yeah.
Actually, the last book I just finished, I like skipped every sex scene because I was like in a rush, and I told my editor, okay, look, I'm just going to put insert scene here and keep going so I can get it to you on time. But I really struggled with the book because that creates such a connection between the characters. There are certain scenes, my kids make fun of me when I write because they say my face, like I make facial expressions, like I'm going through my characters, and my kids are like, what are you doing over there? So emotional scenes, I like to have at least one scene a book where I get the chills or I get tears in my eyes, because I think that tells me that there's a connection there. I don't do anything in particular. Sometimes I listen to certain music for sexy scenes just so I'm like not thinking about the dishwasher or whatever. But for the most part, it's just there. Like once I know the characters well enough, it's easy. At the beginning of a book, it's a struggle. Toward the end, I know them inside and out. I can write them. And a lot of times I finish the book, and then I have to go back and change the beginning to fit the characters I've created, later in the book and developed.
Have you ever cried while writing a book?
Yeah. I cried in the scene in Crashed at the racetrack when Colton tells Riley everything about his past. I cried at a couple of scenes in Slow Burn, which is an emotional book, and definitely Cuffed, because that was a very personal book for me. I've cried in a lot of them. Hard to Handle, yeah. The letter in Hard to Handle at the end, that one got me.
Surprised you didn't say Love Resort, because that scene between him,
yeah,
I cried. I was like, oh my god.
There is that scene between him and his dad. Yeah,
I was like, oh, it hurt.
Yeah.
And because I know this one, the new series that you have, it's going to be a series of 3 books. Each book is standalone, 3 brothers. What's easier for you to write, the first book of that series, or is it harder to write it, or which one's easier to write from the series? Even though they're all standalones,
they're all hard. I think that, for me right now, is I really, really love Last Resort. So now the next books, it's going to be hard for me to make sure that they're the same caliber. So I think that's hard. Writing a trilogy is easier because the characters inside and out, and so you don't have to recreate the characters with each book. So that's why I do like writing duets or series of the same couple, because you just have to write the story. You don't have to create these new people. But I would say in this series, it's going to be easier to write the first book and harder to write the second two, to make it live up to the first one.
How do you come up with your book titles?
That's always a crapshoot. It just this series, it kind of just, sometimes it comes to me in the middle of the night. Sometimes I write a whole book without a title. Like what my book, Then You Happen, it did not have a title the entire time. And then I was reading it for proofing, and there is a line in there that says Then You Happened, and it was like, oh, there's the title. Sometimes I have them ahead of time, sometimes I don't. My Play Hard series, they all have hard to titles. Those were easy. This series that's coming, it was not easy, but then because he's at a resort, it was like, okay, let's see, like can I put a play on words? So each book, it's different. It's not, sometimes I like to have them ahead of time, but sometimes I don't.
And when you're writing a series, how do you do it? Because you said that you write in order. So it's like, how do you decide it's going to be 3 books versus 4 books, like the Play Hard series? Since you don't have anything plotted down yet, how is it that you plan so many books in advance?
Well, like for this one, I know there's 3 brothers, so 3 series. Like the Hard to Handle books, I was only going to have 4 and ended up having 5 because I wanted to tell another story. Sometimes I just try and, for my own mental sake, know what I'm getting into before I start. Like I would love to go back and write a trilogy, but I know there's 3 books there, so it's just more of a planning thing for me. Like I know some people that literally have charts going out for the next 3 years of what they're writing. And it just boggles my mind that they can do that, because I'm like nowhere near that organized, and I'm nowhere near that creative. Like, I don't even know. Sweet Cheeks. Was it Sweet Cheeks? No, Flirting with 40 was a book that I had no intention of writing. And I woke up one morning, it was like, I need to write this book. And I just put everything else on hold. So I like to just kind of go from book to book versus plan, which kind of stinks for editors planning, but oh well.
So when you released Faking It, it was released as an audiobook first. And I am quite confused as to how audiobooks works. So who makes the decision of releasing it as audiobook first and then releasing it as ebook and paperback, or does the author just make the decision for it?
So Audible has a program that they were really pushing for a while called Audible First, where they contract the author, they do the editing, and they pay you for the book, and they want to release it on audio first. They pay for the narrators and everything. And then you have the rights to the ebook, but the ebook and paperback, but you can only release it so many months after the audiobook. So I have a hard time getting a foothold with audio. So for me, it was like a chance to try and get new listeners, readers. And so I took that option. It's a bonus and it's a plus and a minus. Because people have already seen the book. So when you release the ebook, they're like, oh, that's not new. I've already, so to me, it was more of a trying to take an opportunity to try and get new audio listeners and see what happens. I probably wouldn't do it again that way. I like to release all at the same time. It just depends on if audio gets done in time.
You listen to audiobooks?
No. I struggle with paying attention. I do like Faking It, the one you're talking about. That's the first audiobook I listened all the way through, because he had such an awesome accent and it was really sexy to listen to. And there's a scene in there where Rupert, the narrator, is literally talking in 4 different accents. Spanish, Greek, Australian, and something else. I don't remember what the other one. And he's in a conversation and he's literally switching lines and accents with each line. I remember listening to it going, holy crap, like that has to be really hard. And that is what clued me in, like how hard their job is. I do try and listen to it, but for my own books, it's really hard because they pause in different places than I would. They emphasize different words than I do when I'm writing. So for me, it's kind of difficult, but I'm trying to teach myself to listen to audio more.
I think Faking It was my first audiobook, because I don't listen to audiobooks. For me, it's so hard because I'll be listening to it and then I'll be on my phone doing something else.
You get distracted.
Go back and listen to the last part.
I do the same thing. Yeah.
Faking It was also my first audiobook, and I don't pick up audiobooks either, but then somehow this one, it really sucked me in. I was actually paying attention. I'm not sure why.
Well, that's good.
It was actually really good. And I didn't think I would be laughing, but I don't know. But it was. Yeah,
people say it's a learned thing. Like you have to teach yourself to listen to audiobooks. And once you do, like you don't ever, it's easy to clean your house or whatever. And I just need to get to that point. Like Lauren Blakely always tells me, come on, you need to get into, and I'm like, I know.
We're like, I'm on my 3rd wait again. I restarted it 3 times already.
Exactly. Yeah.
That's me all the time. So, is it harder? Because I know we talked a little bit about Driven and how I feel like that is a fan favorite. Like all of your readers, that's the one that if you say which one's the first book that you read of mine, it's Driven. My first book of yours that I read was Driven.
Yep.
Is it challenging writing like this new series? I feel like it's something new and fresh, but it still has that tint of that. I wouldn't say sort of like the Driven series, but it has that, sexy, steamy vibe, you can say, with the alpha hero. Is it challenging to write something new and hoping that, your readers don't compare back and forth to where I miss this, I want to see this?
I was super blessed with Driven and when it hit and the timing of it and the success I had with it. But it is also a challenge because everyone compares everything to Driven. And I like this book, but he was no Colton. And then if I did write Colton, then someone would say, someone that was more like Colton, it would be like, well, can't you write anybody else? You're a one-trick pony. So it's all, I've come to the conclusion that I'm never going to make everyone happy. Mm-hmm. I just have to write what I'm going to write. And with Last Resort in this series, I read a review, and this is going back through, someone said, oh, she's getting soft on her sex scenes. And so my challenge was to write a series that was more sexy and see if I can, win that reviewer over, which is silly, but, it kind of made a challenge to myself. And so there is a doozy of a sex scene in the beginning of this book. And it's because that was okay, here you go.
And I did tell Ping that it's like, I love your books. I felt like Worth the Risk.
It was going back to the old school. Yeah.
Yeah. Like Worth the Risk was always my second favorite book of yours. Driven is always going to be
really.
Yes. I love that book so much. But I felt like Last Resort, it was like the steamy scenes in there. And I guess the banter between both of them, getting to know him more in his history, his trauma, the loss they went through. It feels more like,
it's more like a Resist and Reveal and a Driven.
Yes. Yeah. Correct. Because Resist and Reveal is the same thing. It was something totally different what you had been releasing when you released that duet.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't say dark, but it is a little bit darker.
It has a part to it. Yeah.
Yeah. Then like Worth the Risk. Worth the Risk, I see it as this light read.
Yeah. It's meet, fall in love, we're done. Yeah. Mm-hmm. I like intricate plots if I have like the time to do them. I like intricate plots. Like that's, for instance, I just finished On One Condition, which is the second book in this new series. And my goal is I usually have a plot for him, a plot for her, and then a plot together. And when I turned it into my editor, I was like, look, there is no plot for him. Like I don't know what his is. Like I need to figure it out because I'm not happy with this book. It's too simple. And simple books are really hard for me to write. Like Flirting with 40 and Sweet Cheeks, they're the most complicated books for me to write because they're too simple. And I feel like there's not enough there. Like as a reader, I want meat. I want something to challenge me in what's going to happen next versus, oh, they're going to meet. And then there's going to be a part where they break up and then they're going to get back together. Like those are easy to write, but to me as a reader, I want more than that.
Mm-hmm. That's why when you wrote Resist and Reveal, that whole plot with, I think
Dirty Senator.
Yes. And then Knees, I was like, I need to go back to reread that duet. I love that duet. I've always felt like that's been your darkest.
Yeah. There's dark stuff in there. Yeah.
Would you ever go back to writing something not in the same world, but same theme and vibe as Resist and Reveal?
I have a dark book right here that I'm plotting. Yeah, I'm plotting it for my agent. I've had it on my desk for probably a year and a half. And so I'm kind of like, okay, after this, let's see to me, it's super challenging for me to write a darker book because it makes me uncomfortable. And so I have to read some more books that are darker. I have to make sure I can, like, I have a novella called Unraveled, which was super hard for me to write because it's just not me. It's not comfortable for me. So, but this is something that would be the same vein, but I just have to make sure in my headspace I can do it and not mess it up.
standalone or duet?
Duet. Actually, maybe a trilogy. It might be a trilogy.
I feel that cliffhanger already.
Yeah, pretty much.
The Last Resort is your new book, and like Jan said, it is seriously one of your steamiest books. So, how did you come up with the plot for this? For them being triplets, like Jan we said earlier, it's actually something new that I've never read before. With twins, yes, but then a triplet, I was like, this is going to be interesting. And how did you come up with this idea?
Well, for me, I wanted to do, one night stand trope is a big trope, and I wanted to do it, but I wanted a twist to it. And, we all have read the books where they meet up, and then the next day they see each other as she walks in the office, and you're like, oh, and you kind of know where it's going to go. So I wanted to make a little bit of a twist on it to where when she walks in the room, she knows she was with one of them. She doesn't know who it was. And then it's more of the, on my end, it was how long do I eke this out? How long do I make, them not know? And how long do I give him the upper hand before she takes control? This book started out nothing like this. The plot was not like this. It just kind of veered itself into where it was. I really had to struggle with it. The book kind of goes, instead of going 0 to 60, it goes 60, and then it goes backwards where they actually fall in love. So I have a hard time with insta love and like one night stands writing them, because for me, I think of all the logical things that go with it versus just going with the romance of it. And so I had to work really hard to make me feel connected with her and what she was doing and why she was doing it, and why, you've already slept with him. Why are you saying no now? So yeah, I mean, like I said, I didn't really have a set plot for it. It just kind of came and I went with it.
But I thought that whole, did I sleep with him? Which one was it? Kept you on the edge, because I was like, hey, when is he going to tell her the truth? When is she going to realize, how is she going to be able to say, this is him, without.
I literally rewrote that 20 times, because I was like, is it too soon? Is it not too soon? And then I have one person who reads, usually when I get to the first 10,000 words, I give it to them and I'm like, okay, tell me what you think. Is it good? Is it bad? And she was like, she had the idea of doing it with the drinks. So I'm not going to give it away, but she had the idea of doing it how I did it. And it was like, oh, that's brilliant.
I loved it. I thought that part, I was dying for her to realize who it was. And I was like, okay, he's being a little, and that's the part where I go back to where I loved him, because you dislike him because he's putting her through the ringer and he's hiding stuff from her. And then you see, I guess what I'm saying, it's also you see him the way his brothers view him.
Yes.
It's like, what is he hiding? What is his story?
Who is this guy? Yeah.
And then you get to know him and you're like, I had the wrong idea about him.
Yeah. And I love doing that. I love changing people's opinions about people.
I was surprised. That little twist with that, I was surprised. How did you develop these two characters? Because like we said earlier, his character is very misunderstood. I guess when we go in it, we have the perspective of his brothers. We see him a certain way, but then you find out he's the complete opposite.
That's the beauty of enemies to lovers, even though they were lovers and then became enemies. I love writing enemies to lovers because there's always that tension, and it allows you to build characters off of that tension. He was just fun to write because, alphas have to have a flaw. They have to have something that's their weakness. And I didn't expect the familial aspect to be as strong as it ended up being, but I'm glad it did, because it allowed there to be a valid reason for the things he did, and a reason that the readers understood, even though everyone else didn't until that point. With her, I struggled with the fact that, she just came out of a relationship, and how do I make it believable that she would just become this strong, independent woman? And then I struggled with people thinking, oh, well, the man made her that. And it's definitely not the man who made that. It's her own backbone that was like, wait a minute, I deserve more out of this. I think they have some fun, flirty scenes. Like there's an underwear scene that I love. And it just kind of, you see their friendship happen. You see their friendship start building despite how much they want each other. And then it's just fun to go from there.
I will say
I didn't answer any of your questions. Sorry.
No, you're good. It's true. Like I will say when she walks into that conference room and sees all three of them, I screamed. I was like, oh my God. And it's like how she starts off in the book is not how she ends up in the book. Because it's true.
She's good because you want her to have character growth.
Yes. I loved her. I thought she made the book funny because she was always also her friend that was always,
Lizzie,
pushing her. And it's like, I feel like like I said, she starts off a certain way and ends, this strong, determined, fierce woman that's what I love to read in books.
Yay.
So for this series, how much research did you do for this series? Because since it is a hotel resort business.
I don't do much research. I mean, we're lucky nowadays. We don't have to get like an Encyclopedia Britannica out. We can just Google things. So, I mean, I did some research on the Virgin Islands. I did, I have a list of like hotel terms, just so that I make sure I have hotel. But for the most part, I'm a pretty well-rounded, well-read person. And so my family says I have Jeopardy knowledge. I have a lot of knowledge about a lot of weird things. And so I don't struggle much with the research part of it. It's just more making sure their tone is the right way.
Which book of yours is the one that you had to do a lot of research for?
Hold on, I need to look. Probably Resist and Reveal. Resist and Reveal or Then You Happen, because it's just kind of out of my element. And I wanted to make sure, there were some issues with in Resist and Reveal with custody and laws. And the problem is each state has different laws. So like even the book I just finished writing, I had to go look up laws in Montana to make sure things, because there's always going to be some person that doesn't work in my state. Well, the book is in this place. So
yes.
Yeah.
Did you already say who's in the next book?
It's going to be Ledger, the oldest brother.
What can you tell us about Ledger?
He's definitely type A. He's definitely structured. But there is a chink in his armor. And it's probably going to be a second chance. Well, it is a second chance romance. Those are my two. I love enemies to lovers and I love second chance romance. So
I am so excited. When is that one? Do you already have a release date for that one?
June, I believe. Yeah, June.
Are they all three going to be out this year, right? Like the third one is
yeah.
this year too?
Yeah, and the only reason they're spaced out so far is because I had to schedule audio and it's really hard to, narrators are so booked up nowadays. It's ridiculous. So
have you already planned what you're going to write after this series?
Yes and no. Probably my darker series, but you never know what's going to happen in between. I have like 4 or 5 books that I have plotted out. Sometimes you sit down to write them and it's just not working. So then you just move on.
Will you ever do another like small town? Because I feel like Then You Happened was that cowboy small town vibe. Will you ever go back to those stories?
I have a whole small town series. That's the first 2 are plotted out. Yeah, that's actually where I was going to go next, and then we were doing something with publishers with it, and it kind of fell through. So I'll probably, to have a book plotted out that you don't write is kind of silly. So yeah, it's in a small town. It's 4 best friends. They all live in a small town. Yeah.
I'm so excited. You're like making my day, because I was telling Payne the other day, I was like, I remember reading Then You Happen. I was like, I wonder if she would ever do more small town romance, because I love
small town's fun to write. Well, okay, for instance, the next book, On One Condition, it's small town. It's in a small town. Yeah. and all of the intricacies of a small town and the rumors and the gossip and the judgy, the judgy people. And yeah.
My favorite. And now I for sure need June to be here already. All right. So before we do let you go, we wanted to play a little game with you. We usually do them with authors, and we call it "How well do you know your books?"
Oh, that's not fair.
So we're gonna read 6 quotes, and you have to guess which book the quote is from.
That's not fair. I 6 quotes, I'll probably get like 2 right. They all blend together after a while.
All right. So let's go.
Okay.
The first one is feeling as something that is fed by insecurities, knowing as something that is backed by facts.
Oh, geez. I wrote that? That's pretty deep. I have no idea.
I'll give you a hint. You mentioned this book a little earlier.
Oh, lovely. Hard to hold? Then you happened? Resist reveal? I'm like,
in order.
I'll just go through all of them. I have no idea.
Flirting with 40.
Flirting with 40. Oh, yeah, that makes sense. Yeah.
Okay, the second one. And then I realized, as I do now, that in the end, I'm going to break you apart.
Oh, I've used that line in a couple books. That's Colton. Yeah, that's Colton. I don't know which one, but that's Colton.
I told him, we need to make the driven ones a little bit harder.
Yeah. The break you apart line, I just know from when we did the movies, there was a specific thing about that line. Yeah.
The third one, staring at her, I feel like a man drowning for water, and she is the water.
That's Callahan. That's Last Resort.
The fourth one, I realized all of these feelings, these realizations within me came to life the minute he stepped onto my porch, the minute he somehow entered my life.
Onto my porch. Then you happened? There's a porch in that one. I'm like, wait a minute. I'm trying to think which books have porches.
The fifth one, all I want is her. All I need is her. She quiets the demons. She sees me, the real me. And that scares the ever-loving
shit out of me. Yeah. That's Colton. Is that Colton? No. I don't know. That could be a lot of my heroes.
Hard to handle.
Oh, Hunter. Hunter, who was originally Rhett. Yeah, he was originally Rhett the whole book, and then I finished it and I didn't like it, so I changed him.
How do you come up with your names? The names for the characters?
I like unique names. I like a name. If someone says a name, they're going to be like, oh, I remember what book it's in. So I like something different and unique. And the best place to go is sit in a kindergarten, because all the people have all these new different names now.
Mm-hmm. And it's true, because we've mentioned it before. We feel like your heroine names are so unique.
People either love it or hate it. So it's a catch-22. People are like, you're trying to be too unique. And to me, my kids' names are different. So I like individuality. I
like names that you haven't heard before.
Yeah.
Because it's like you said, you remember them.
Yeah. Okay. Last one.
You waited your whole life to have freedom and wings to fly.
That's Last Resort.
Yes.
I was like, wait a minute. That's Last Resort. Okay. Yay. I got some of them.
See, you did good.
I got 50%. Yay.
It's better than 0%.
Yes.
But thank you so much, Chrissy, for joining us today.
Thanks for having me, ladies.
It was amazing. And congratulations on the release of Last Resort. I loved it so much, and I'm super excited for the second one.
Thank you. I hope everyone else likes it. Let's see. Fingers crossed.
They will. But
okay.
I hope to see you soon. I know for sure we'll see you in Book Bonanza. So I can't wait. And we hope you have an amazing evening.
Thanks. You too, ladies. Thank you for having me. Bye.
Thank you so much, Christy, for joining us again today. I love her. She is the sweetest. And it's like, I loved Last Resort. Like I said, it's something very different. Like we mentioned, I've never read a story where it's triplets. triplet brothers.
Mm-hmm.
So it's very, I know for some people it's like, well, it's just triplets. It's like, but I feel like the family dynamic is different.
Yeah.
When it's like twins or triplets.
Mm-hmm.
So this book is very, I mean, if you love angsty, steamy, awful hero, this one's definitely for you. The banter, chef kisses. Like, I love it. I'm telling you, I was laughing. I was screaming. I was like fanning myself. I was like, ooh, it's like so hot in here. It's amazing. So please pick it up and make sure I don't know if she added the pre-order for the second one yet, but we'll look at it and then we'll add it to the bio if it is. So you guys can pre-order. I'm super excited for the second one.
All three of them are up on Goodreads, so
add them to your you read. I'm super excited for the second one, especially since she said it has a small town vibe.
And Second Chance.
My favorite. I'm so excited. But thank you again, Christy, so much. It was an honor. It was so much fun. I love you. Anybody who hasn't picked up The Last Resort, please pick it up. It's phenomenal. We are going to be picking a winner for our giveaway. Sorry, it's taking a little bit longer than usual. Like, we've been finishing off our box, which we just ordered our samples of the first one. So it's coming. We actually finished the second cover, ready for the second book. The third one's being worked at, and I'm nervous.
I'm really nervous.
It's exciting, guys. So make sure you guys keep an eye on our Instagram. Make sure you pick up Last Resort by Christy. It's phenomenal. And I don't know if you guys saw, but Passionflix announced that Crashed is going to be released in May. So keep an eye on that, because that just means that since it's April, we should be getting teasers soon. So we're going to be talking about it. I'm going to be talking about it. So keep an eye on that. And then we hope you guys have an amazing week. We hope you guys are reading amazing books, and we'll see you guys next week. Bye.
Bye.